So in many ways, I think that in these terms, development was a smashing success in political terms. It cemented US hegemony in the Americas, in Africa, and in Asia, obviously with the exception of Vietnam. And what happened, which was the progress which was attributed to development, they were sort of very clever in that there was worldwide economic expansion was taking place anyway after World War II, right? Because you had first you had all this investment in reconstruction, and then you had this tremendous industrial capacity of the West back online, spreading out, buying up tremendous amounts of raw materials from the South. At the same time, within the same development debate, you had dependency theory and ISI coming in and also developing productive capacities, moving from with the agrarian transition out of more traditional agrarian economies into industrial agriculture and manufacturing and even heavy industry, right? So there's tremendous industrial growth worldwide. You had like 6% average economic growth worldwide. And so, as those of you who did the readings, I think Rapley says, if you couldn't develop in that context, you pretty much have to give it up, right? I mean, obviously, development was both an economic success and then a tremendous political success because of that. So it's no wonder that it also sort of resulted in a tremendous amount of ideological and political hubris on the part of the Western powers, the World Bank, the US, in terms of a self-enforcing and reinforcing road to progress seemed pretty obvious to everybody. Things began to unravel with the Vietnam War. And I guess it's fair to say, what did the Vietnam War produce besides, was it 3 million deaths on Vietnamese peasants, but above all it produced what? Paper. Paper about this big, green. We ended up printing a lot of money in order to finance the war. Because that's the thing about wars, it gets your economy going. You get to pay all these workers, they have all this money, they spend it on goods and whatnot. What you produce is destroyed immediately, so you have to produce it again. However, what you produce is not productive in and of itself, right? So it's sort of a dead end for capital right there. So you end up having to produce money, right? So, which is what we did. And this coincided with OPEC's with OPEC shutting off the oil to the Western powers. Everybody know what OPEC is? The Organization of Petroleum Producing Countries, and the cartel. Don't hear much about it anymore because it kind of fell apart. But at the time, I remember being stuck with no gasoline. Like stuck in a long line towards a gas station, and the gas station closing, and being out of gas. Just, for days, no gasoline. The other thing that happened at this time was that the US abandoned the gold standard. Does anybody know why they might have done that? First of all, why were we on the gold standard?
Give legitimacy to the currency.
To
give legitimacy to the currency.
To give legitimacy to the currency, yes. Why do we want legitimacy for our currency?
Well, wasn't it started at Bretton Woods? They put us on the gold standard to stabilize the economy so we could rebuild here.
And we were sitting on most of the gold in the world.
Yes. Yes. So supposedly, you know, if you had $1, you could go to Fort Knox and they would give you a little chunk of gold, right? Which at that time was something ridiculous. I can't remember, you know, $36 an ounce. You know, it's at $1,000 an ounce now. But, and that allowed our dollars, that allowed the US to pay everybody in dollars. And everybody would accept those dollars because theoretically they could go to Fort Knox. Of course, no one ever did that, but everybody believed Fort Knox was there and that there was actually gold there. And that was good enough for quite a while.
So the reason, your other question was, why did we go off gold standard? And I think it's because we had so much money, there wasn't enough gold to back it at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, because suddenly, you know, there'd be a run on the bank, and there's no bank. Or at least there's not enough. You ain't got enough bank to back that gold. So Nixon, I think it was Nixon, took us off the gold standard. Well, the gold standard had stabilized currency and trade for decades, you know, since Bretton Woods. And then we get what's called stagflation. Is there someone tell me what stagflation is?
You have a recession in combination with inflation.
You have a recession in combination with inflation, which means there's not much buying going on, but the prices are high. You're sort of stuck in the water. You can't tack to port or starboard. That's what we're afraid of now. So the Fed raises the interest rates. What does that do?
Makes people buy on credit.
Not unless you wanted to pay a lot of money.
So basically, people want to spend less because they can invest and get to higher interest rates, and so as a way of pulling down high interest rates.
Okay, so you can invest and get higher interest rates, spend less, save more, yes?
If you want to take out loans, it's going to be more expensive.
It's going to be more expensive.
And a lot of developing countries have had rates get adjusted with the Fed. So
Right.
if rates go up, then they suddenly have to pay more money.
Right, right.
It reduces the flow of money.
Yeah,
It brings
just
more money into the banks.
shut off the flow. Money is more expensive if you want to borrow it, so you borrow less of it, right? Which then, of course, reduces production because a lot of production is based on borrowing, right? They raise the interest rates and commodity prices plummet. Now, what does this combination do to the third world, or the global south?
Puts them in debt.
Yeah, they explode in debt because, as someone just pointed out, they'd taken out all these loans, right, when the world was awash in dollars, and then suddenly they've got to pay back a lot more interest. And not only that, the banks are calling in their loans, right? We want the money back now. There's not, suddenly money is expensive, we want ours back. Does that make sense? You know?